Today on the Topping Show, Donald Trump framed mugshot is found at the White House and goes viral. Vance calls out Europe for their lack of free speech. Dodge says that there's a chance for a sub $30,000 sports car. Denny's is going to close dozens of locations. The ACLU and a trans activist are suing Donald Trump over his executive order that says that U.S. passports can only have two genders. And Igloo coolers are being recalled to the fact that, well, a couple of appendages have gone missing due to this use. All of that, much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Yes, it does come with a fun Picatinny rail adapter, so if you choose, you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more, or click the URL in the video description below. Also, we're going to have our first live stream. It's going to be Saturday. It's going to be the first Q&A, rather, February 22nd, 6 p.m. Texas time, or as some people call Central Time. Lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Dodge saying that there's a chance for a sub $30,000 sports car, which should be great and long overdue. I mean, not just a regular sports car. When's the last time anyone wanted to buy a Dodge in general? Been quite some time. Now, this comes to us thanks to specifically thedrive.com. Brian Hurd actually is the writer over there. They say, quote, Dodge thinks there's an opportunity for a basic sub $30,000 sports car. Now, thank God the Dodge CEO is back, aka Matt McClare. He is the one who's behind the brilliance of the Dodge Challenger Hellcat and the Elephant engines. 1,000+ horsepower, things of beauty, pure American muscle. Well, I mean Canada, but nevertheless, American muscle and glorious horsepower. Now, specifically, he is back trying to fix the brand after they basically shot themselves in the foot saying, oh yeah, we're going to have a Dodge Challenger with an EV. Oh, or get a straight six, which is great for a BMW, but for an American muscle car, yeah, I don't think so. We want the Hemi. We want, as the age-old philosopher once said, there is no replacement for displacement. Now, CEO, again, of Dodge, Matt, says, quote, there's a market for an entry-level Halo that's fun with no frills, almost like the original Viper. Now, interestingly enough, if you're a gearhead, you'll recognize this. Technically, it's a concept car. I think they only made one of them. It almost as if, I believe they call it the Hammer, but is an instance in which it almost looks like they took the Dodge Viper and conceptualized it in a Mazda Miata format in terms of size. And it looks pretty cool. Everyone was so disappointed they didn't come out with that. And man, I really wish they did. In this case, they do have a cool, I would say it's a nice bright orange paint job on it. Now let's say, quote, Stellantis is going through changes, big ones, top down. Well, they need to. Again, Q4, their sales and profits are down about 42%. Yeah, that's pretty rough. They say top-down leadership changes, moves are rarely recharting each brand's path, with Dodge CEO Matt McClare telling us the V8 is no longer a bad word around the company, which, yeah, it's Dodge. Of all the companies that is pathetic they acquiesced away from the V8, I would say it's Dodge. For a decade, we had the fun, bombastic Hellcat. We had the great Charger, the Challenger, the Viper. I mean, it was the brand for, I used to say, screw the government. We'll do what we want for the people. And we'll give the people what they want. And they did until they acquiesced and became lame. Now, he says, quote, the change doesn't come until after the piece of crap, I'll use their words, the electric Charger Daytona launch, which has been criticized continually by people who just want big displacement gas engines, which, yeah, exactly. I'm not saying there's no market for the EV Dodge Charger. Just saying there's about 18 people in San Francisco who want that. Again, you can't even do a burnout, which it's not the only reason you buy a muscle car, but it is a contributing factor. Now, he also says that it's been criticized continuously by people who want displacement. McClare admits there have been some harshness stings, but insists that the right move while hinting at a V8 comeback for the COP model. But what things that aren't the Charger? Dodge once built an impressive, world-beating, even sports car, but no longer meanwhile. Chevy just turned in, what they say here, Chevy has just turned in one of the most ridiculous rear-wheel drive vehicles ever built, and Ford is launching the Mustang that recently laid waste to the Dodge record they previously held. So all this leads to one question. What about the Viper, which used to be handmade in Detroit? The best bang for your buck for, well, very few options out there, but for a stick shift V10, baby, 10 cylinders of glory. I mean, Dodge used to be so cool back in the day. Last ADHD comment, I swear. Dodge put a Dodge Viper V10 engine into a pickup truck and gave it a stick shift and even, I don't know why they do this, a spoiler on a pickup truck. It was the brand for loud fun. Now, McLaren's response was an interesting one. In it, there are multiple parts that opened the unexpected possibility, like Dodge potentially recreating the original Viper moment with people who can actually afford it. Now, this is a beautiful Dodge Viper right there. They only came in a stick shift, like they should all be by default. Now, he says, one of my favorite cars was the Viper. And then they say, quote, a simple statement, not an answer. So we tried a different question. Is there a need for a Halo model beyond what Dodge can do with the Charger platform? Is there a need, in other words, for something like the iconic V10 powered monster? He says, quote, is there a need? I don't know if there's a need. Is there a want, a desire for the market? I think, yeah, there's a market for those two things. There's a market for an entry-level Halo and a top-of-the-line Halo car. They say after that, McLaren introduced an entirely new element to the conversation, the prospect of an entry-level Halo. So, of course, we pressed what would it even look like from Dodge. And here you can see the rear of, not as quite as good as the front concept of the, I think it was called the Hammer. And he says, well, I don't know what I'd compare it to. I think there's inspiration in seeing what some of the power sports companies have done, not only like crazy side-by-sides, but the three-wheelers, the slingshot. I think there's something there. He says, everyone has so many hobbies these days. They want to spend their money on so many different things. It's tough to be an all-in-one thing, put all my chips in one basket, so to say, I gotta have that car. It's great for those who can afford it, but not all of us can or want to do that. The cheapest quote-unquote fun car in the Dodge showroom these days is the Charger. Yeah. And until new models are introduced, put simply, the cheapest isn't really cheap. After destination, the most affordable option for the Charger is more than 60 grand. Which is comical. That's not affordable or an entry-level car in any way. He says, the question is, what can people afford? He says, quote, I think there's some entry-level vehicle back to the sub $30,000 mark. I think there's a market for people who want to just have a weekend car again, who would like a Viper, but don't want to spend $100,000 to $120,000. Something that doesn't just need all the safety features, doesn't just need heated seats, just a car. And here you can see another picture of the back of that concept. Oh, I was wrong. It wasn't the Hammer, it was the Demon. He says, call me crazy, but was McLaren describing a Miata, or to go deep into the company's backlog of performing concepts such as the Dodge Demon? Long before the nameplate was used for the line of drag strip menacing challengers, it graced a two-seater roadster that made the rounds briefly during the Chrysler's Cerberus era. Well, yeah, I was going to say the interior actually looked pretty good for a concept car back then. And that had a stick shift, like all cars should have by default. That looks pretty cool. I can't believe they didn't make that. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually come out with it. Now, a lot of people forget. Perhaps it's nostalgia, which is why maybe I like it more than I remember. No, I even liked it back then. One of the cool, SRT used to be their top performance line, and they used to do it for all their vehicles, put a big old engine in and have fun. And I think one of the best bang for your buck Dodge cars back in the day, which, shoot, nowadays that's the 90s, 2000 era. The Dodge Neon, or they call it the Dodge SRT4. I'm a little biased. That was a car I learned how to drive stick shift with. God bless John, my buddy. He was the one that let me use this car, and he taught me. And, truth be told, of course, I stalled it a couple times. But that was a fun turbocharged four-banger, 4 cylinders, little 4-door. I would say it's pretty sporty. They had a spoiler, the big old brakes, a turbocharger. That was a really great bang for your buck back in the day. A lot of American car companies have just acquiesced from that. That's partially because, small entry-level cars, the average models, they don't have a lot of profit built in them. That's why Ford stopped making them altogether. Another underrated car that I thought was really cool, but I never had that opportunity to own, was the Chevy Cobalt SS. That's really cool. Another really great, sporty little car, turbocharged, inline-4, little stick shift, again, around this price point. And they killed that as well. When the Chevy came out with the replacement for the Cobalt, then became the Cruze, they had the Eco version, which I'm biased, I liked, stick shift with a turbo was, for the Eco. And it was also my first car. I love that thing. but they never had an SS model or what the Chevrolet brand called their top trim level. They really never did that for the Cruze. They kind of abandoned that entry level sporty car. And when you think about what's a fun sub $30,000 sports car, or even close to that, you have the Mazda Miata, you have the Subaru BRZ, aka the Toyota 86. And you got the Honda Civic Si, though that's creeping more towards 34,000 these days, I think. If they could realistically get to a 30,000 or sub $30,000 sports car, that'd be a great way to get some attention, get some market share, and get people back into loving the Dodge brand. And then again, hopefully, being a business owner or business in this case, you want them long term. Okay, they buy the entry level $30,000 car, then that person grows in their career. They eventually want to buy a nicer thing. Then they spend 6 figures on the Dodge Viper, which I would argue probably one of the most iconic things Dodge ever did and ever. And it's sad that they let the Dodge Viper die a couple years back. I think they should bring that back ASAP. Again, especially these days, when you look at stick shift sports cars, they're selling for such a premium over the competition, partially because there's so little competition these days in terms of, how many stick shifts are left. I mean, Porsche's out there making some great cars. The Mustang's out there winning the pony war since, new Charger's an EV, and then the, Chevy killed the Camaro and the new Corvette's only automatic. I mean, I think there's definitely a market out there. And the only question is how much, how much do they need to reinvest in research, development, manufacturing, infrastructure, and overhead to make these things come to light and come to fruition. Again, the Dodge brand has been getting weaker and weaker. I would argue it's still one of the best in Stellantis portfolio, but they really need to make some fun cars again to get people excited. It'll be interesting to see how many units they can move, but I mean, I still maybe I'm biased because I love the cars growing up, but I still think there's a good business use case for a sub $30,000 sports car. Add the 6-shift option, get rid of all the unnecessary thrills, bells, and whistles that drive up the cost. And I think it'd be a great chapter in Dodge's turnaround plan or Stellantis' turnaround plan. So I mean, he's saying there's an opportunity for it. I really hope there is, and let me know if all the Dodges you've ever driven, what was your favorite one? To me, I have a small sample size. I haven't driven too many Dodges, except, the family's minivan back in the day, which, by comparison, that Dodge Neon SRT4 felt like a Viper in comparison to the Dodge Grand Caravan. But let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Denny's closing down dozens of more restaurants, and their stock isn't looking great. Now, this is America, so you have to have that caveat. Not financial advice, which, hindsight's always 20/20 when it comes to investing. So many stocks I wish I could have bought all those years ago. Nevertheless, they're not doing great right now. This comes to us thanks to CNN Business, which somehow still in business. Pretty surprised. They probably have about 18 employees left. So before we dive into the article, I thought it'd be interesting to let's look at their stock ticker. I guess it's doing better than Black Rifle Coffee stock. That's not saying much, though. It's actually cheaper to buy one share of Black Rifle Coffee than it is to buy a coffee. Yeah, it really is under $3. I can't believe it's still there. Now, again, Denny's is about $5.04. So you can actually buy a piece of Denny's cheaper than a meal at Denny's, which, to me, I find comical. I mean, their 5-year trend is, down 75%. In the past year, there's almost 50% off discount, down 46%. It's crashing right before our eyes. I mean, year to date, Jesus, it's down 19.54%. 6 months, down 10%. So things aren't doing great at Denny's, and they're going to have to close some more restaurants apparently. Now, specifically, this article is credited to Jordan Vlinsky, who's a writer at CNN Business. They say, quote, Denny's is closing dozens more restaurants, and there you can see the iconic Denny's logo, in which they say, quote, Denny's is closing about 30 more restaurants than previously announced as part of the struggling diner chain's plan to jumpstart growth. The additional closures come after Denny's announced last year it was shutting down the doors at more than 150 locations. In an earnings release last Wednesday, the company revealed it closed 88 locations last year and will shutter between 70 and 90 locations in 2025, bringing the figure closer to about 180 locations. The specific list of locations were immediately revealed. However, Denny's said some of the diners closing were selected because they have expiring leases, but have been there for more than 30 years, or making them too expensive to remodel, or in areas that have been unprofitable. Looking at you, California and Illinois. Now, Denny's CFO, Robert Virosek, says, quote, in any mature brand, when restaurants have been open that long, it's natural that trade areas can shift over time. Acceleration, the closure of low-volume restaurants will improve franchisee cash flow and allow them to reinvest in traffic-driven initiatives like our tested and proven remodel program, unquote. They also noted that remodeled restaurants did indeed see a 6.5% increase in traffic over the year, which that's a pretty good bump. Also, pretty expensive to do remodeling. However, the company renovated only 23 locations in 2024, which, yeah, is probably one of the few things of value I learned in college was business statistics. And our professor would always emphasize, know your sample size, which, yeah, 6.5% increase. That sounds good. The sample size is 23 locations, which that is pretty, that is, I would take that with not a grain of salt. I would take that with half a Denny's plate of salt in terms of, and that's very small anecdotal evidence or very small sample size. Even smaller when you consider that's part of their 1,300 locations. They say that Denny's has struggled in recent years because of inflation and rising food cost. In sales in January and February, nosedives following a strong end of 2024 because of, quote, consumer uncertainty that we are seeing in the moment. They say that new inflation report shows that consumer prices rose 0.5% from December to last month, bringing the annual inflation rate to 3% for the 12 months that ended in January. They say it's causing a lot of volatility in February for Denny's, according to Virosek, the CFO. And it has resulted in the company releasing, quote, ultra conservative guidance for this following year. Jeez Louise. Yeah, and they noted how the shares are down 50% from a year prior, which, yeah, that's not great. Now, a couple of people in the comment section are noting the price of eggs being the variable, which, yeah, you're seeing a short term. We're seeing a big egg spike in terms of cost of goods in the United States at the moment. Someone said, what's happening here is Denny's running out of cheese. They could start restructuring. They could start restricting and putting cheese on everything. I stopped going when they started putting cheese in my coffee, which obviously they never did that. Or I don't think that's part of their standard business practice. I mean, another thing is, just eating out. To me, eating out has just lost all value. I mean, they know cost. I think that's the big elephant in the room. And it really is. I mean, this isn't, I don't expect this to necessarily to be as cheap as like McDonald's was back in the day, but it's just like, it's a sit down restaurant. Just, you're paying a little bit more than for that. But like when I have friends who go out to eat with their families, they tell me like what the bills are these days. It's just completely unsustainable. I can't imagine doing that. So I'm not too surprised they're closing down more locations, and it's rough. Hopefully people who are losing their jobs are able to find gainful employment at a competitor. And I mean, I really don't see them turning things around anytime soon. Again, not financial advice, but what's a compelling reason for me to go to Denny's? I can get Walmart egg whites for like, was it about $4.75 per jug? I forget how many ounces are in that silly thing, but nevertheless, it's just so expensive to eat out these days. People always say, "Oh, yeah, it's convenient." Well, shoot, I can microwave my egg whites in under 3 minutes, and I can add salt that takes about 18 seconds, and that's dinner or breakfast. It's like, why spend, $15, $20, $30, $40 going to Denny's? Free coffee refill? I don't know about that. Coffee's about 18 cents if you make it at home. So if all the compelling business use cases that are out there, I just don't see one right now to go to Denny's. Well, at least personally, but let me know, when's the last time you actually went to a Denny's? And do you think price is the main reason why people are decreasing their rate of dining out? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the cultural part podcast, you have the ACLU as well as a trans activist suing Trump because of his new executive order around U.S. passports only having 2 genders. Now, the ACLU was a good organization a couple decades ago when they actually would stand up for the freedom of speech of all Americans, regardless of what they were saying, which again is what free speech is all about. I mean, as a country, culturally speaking, we used to all agree with the age-old saying, I might not agree with what you're saying, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. Unfortunately, we've fallen far from that, culturally speaking, as we have cultural decay rotting from America, and now you have people praising censorship and calling for more of it. Now, this comes with thanks to End Wokeness, and when she says, quote, breaking, the ACLU is partnering with trans activists to sue Donald J. Trump for recognizing biological reality on passports. So perhaps they'll refute everything we were thinking with some brilliant, articulate ideals of why this is protected or important.
It's official, y'all. I am working with the ACLU to sue the Trump administration. Now, you're probably wondering, why on earth am I suing Donald Trump? Well, you may or may not have seen this video that went kind of viral. So yes, I'm a transgender woman. I applied to renew my passport and have it marked as female, and they refused, and they sent it back to me as male. He does not get to tell me who I am. Only I do. And now I'm at high risk of something bad happening to me if I were to travel abroad. This policy is dangerous, and it is unfair to every single trans, non-binary, or intersex person that there is. It's official.
No, of course, he didn't refute it with any logic or reason. Those things are, well, elude many people these days. And this went moderately viral. Got about 300,000 views and 3.5 thousand likes. And again, just for, well, I don't see this winning any court cases. Well, again, it's the United States. You can sue anyone for anything. The only question is, will they actually win? Unfortunately, this is in somewhere like California. Yeah, maybe they will win. But yeah, I mean, just for national security alone, yeah, you probably want to have only 2 genders on passports. Now, the first comment comes from Based Electrician, who says, quote, "This guy is suing Trump to be able to lie on his passport in 2025. Good luck." There's a screenshot of the person looking crazy with the typical crazy leftist eyes, which they seem to all have. Soulless and creepy eyes, which is coming from me, just saying something. My eyes are not nothing pretty to look at. Ironically, this person also is wearing a cross. Got 236 likes. Paul Zuzupa says, quote, "This man can have all the surgery he wants and complain, but he won't change his chromosomes from from XY to XX, getting 315 likes." The Beast Electrician also says, quote, "The purpose of the passport is not to keep you safe while you play dress up overseas," getting 31 likes. Cash Loren says, "Oh, please be dumb enough," "Oh, please be dumb enough, liberals, to force this issue to SCOTUS," getting 22 likes, which, I mean, eventually, most cases over time, eventually they get up to the Supreme Court if you keep fighting them. Scrolling down more and more. Let's see here. What did you say? Interesting profile name. Has the infographic of like, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many is that? 7, 14. So of the 28, well, they have apparently there's a chart that has 28 different genders, and he circles all of them except the 2, and he says, genders versus, mental illness. Getting 282 likes. Going down more and more. Ed simply has a picture of 2 of the women looking very upset, and then a guy smiling. And the guy smiling says, "Me, who voted for all of it." And the girls are crying. It says, "Leftist when Trump does a new thing." 225 likes. Now, I don't know if this is a real quote. I need to check it out. But this quote is very popular with this cultural topic. This is posted by No Place Like Home. It says, quote, "Abraham Lincoln once asked an audience how many legs a dog has, if you can count the tail as a leg. When they answered 5, Lincoln told them the answer was 4. The fact that you called the tail a leg does not make it a leg," unquote. Getting 137 likes. C Bash has a fun acronym for ACLU. It's now relabeled Asshole Communist Losers Union. And it says Soros lovers sabotaging our republic, one case at a time. Getting 4 likes. Crazy Vibe says, "Trans person says she hasn't slept since Trump became president and may flee Florida or New York or seek asylum in Canada." Which, Canada, I mean, might be the one place that's more tyrannical. Yeah, that's pretty, yeah, it's trying to think of what would be a worse punishment in life than going to Canada. It's hard to say. See what this individual has to say here. Maybe there's a very articulate reason. Of course, it has the cow ring.
I think how could I have ever seen something like this coming? I mean, it's January 28th, 2025. And I've already known that I need to relocate.
Yeah, well, scientifically speaking, I don't know how many days you could really go without sleeping, but yeah, over 30 means pretty insane. Got 39 likes. House of Trad says, quote, "Make it stop." There's one of those leftist books that says, He has a fat man and says, "I'm in daddy's belly." And it's a gay couple with one of them pretending to be pregnant. And that's actually a real book that someone wrote. And a publisher said, "Yeah, we'll publish that." And a store said, "Yeah, we'll sell that." And someone said, "Yeah, I'll buy that." Which, yeah, the party of science, we're told. Let's see. I don't see any contrarian statements brewing to the surface in this case. The Scoop says, quote, "President Trump is standing up for common sense and biological reality, unlike the ACLU, who's trying to push their radical agenda on America. We need to support our president in defending our values and the truth." Getting 82 likes. Yeah. The ACLU is so evil they wanted to take Santa outside of school. Like, remove Santa from school. They sued for that. Thank God Santa won. Literally trying to steal Christmas away from kids. How evil can he be? So, we'll see. There's a bunch of just memes of people saying, "What a shame." And culturally speaking, I think more than 51% of Americans are probably saying, "Yeah, in a passport, you should probably be, biological, your real thing." But let me know. Maybe we're in the minority this time. Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. And going over to the political part podcast, you have JD Vance calling up Europe and calling them out for their lack of free speech, and also, fun bonus, roasting Gretta Thunberg, that insufferable puppet. Now, this is recently posted thanks to Benny Johnson on X, and he says, quote, "Vice President JD Vance is dropping the hammer at the Munich Security Conference."
Expressing opinions isn't election interference. Even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential. And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk. But what no democracy, American, German, or European, will survive is telling millions of voters that their thoughts and concerns, their aspirations, their pleas for relief are invalid or unworthy of even being considered.
Yeah, I remember the European Union, the whole continent, they're so evil and corrupt. They actually give harsher punishments to people who throw out memes or memes than people who do physical assault, people who hurt women and children. They get lesser prison sentences than people who tweet. That's how evil Europe has become. I can't think of a greater injustice than that. There's a gal who is, again, it's more controversial over there, or I think it's controversial everywhere, but it's an instance where an illegal took advantage of her in the worst possible way, and she tweeted about it, and she got a harsher sentence than the man who hurt her. That's how evil Europe is, which is also reason 9,958,735,002 to not live in Europe. No freedom of speech, no freedom of defend yourself, no freedom of arms, no Second Amendment, no First Amendment. Yeah, and they tax the hell out of you. I have yet to see the upside except the pretty scenery that you can see from time to time. And this went moderately viral, got about 600,000 views and 39,000 likes. On the first comments, I'm a little biased. I think this comment comes from a very handsome and I think this is a handsome and brilliant individual who commented. "It's me, hashtag the topping show," or handle, whatever you call the thing, in which I say, quote, "The UK and Europe literally arrest people for memes. They're the definition of tyrants," getting 3 likes. Which might not sound like a lot, but if Trump were to say, I'd say something to the effect of, "Those 3 likes are the best. It's all about the quality over the quantity. Those are the 3 coolest people I know, obviously." To which I would say, yes, you're right. Scrolling down more and more. I Love American News has a screenshot of an article in which it says, quote, "Germany, a man criticizes a judge who fined a Syrian for taking advantage of a 15-year-old girl. He gets fined twice as much." Which, yeah. Remember when I'm a big fan of, this video probably will get taken down if I say death penalty. About to say the death penalty. Yeah, we don't use it enough. But of all the things that should, that should be assigned to by a judge, yeah, taking advantage of kids, yeah, I'd say, yeah, that should be an option at the judge to give out. But yeah, I got 90 likes, which, yeah, another reason not to visit there. If it wasn't for Porsche, I really wouldn't see much value of ever visiting Germany. MT Rancher says, quote, JD just said some truths on Europe in Munich. Free speech, free elections, mass migration, listen to the people. Don't be scared of democracy working. The European elitist sat stone-faced while several turds were introduced at their punch bowl, getting 70 likes. Traveling Deviant simply says, how dare you? Getting 7 likes. Most hilarious thing about Greta whining about the environment while spending most of her life on private jets, which, if you care about emissions, those are perhaps the most inefficient form. Well, it's the worst thing in terms of like the environment, in terms of the emissions being exfoliated from the vehicle. It's the worst methodology out there. Also hilarious that Taylor Swift does the same thing. The Truthman says, go, awesome job, humorous toughness. Vance is going to be a great president in 2028, getting 109 likes. So get 110. 110 likes is better. Randy Brock says, need Queen's Hammer to play falling in the background, getting 14 likes. Douglas Drew has a picture of Greta looking as weird as usual, which is coming from me, which is saying something. In which he says, Democrats expert, and it's just a picture of Greta getting 42 likes. Taxman says, goated, and it's an AI picture from Grok, where it's JD Vance holding a gavel, which, yeah, looks pretty funny. Yeah, and I'm surprised the U.S. does so much trade with Europe. We do so much trade with other countries that don't have basic human rights like freedom to defend yourself, freedom of speech. I'm surprised you don't make that a contingency of doing business with us. I feel for U.S. being one of the best markets to sell into, I feel like there's a pretty good amount of leverage in there. I think a lot of countries would acquiesce and actually, do what's right for their citizens. But let me know if you think that idea would go anywhere. Do you think Trump would ever do that? But overall, just let me know, because as always, be vested here what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Trump's mugshot being a portrait in the White House and going viral. Now, this comes with thanks to Lives of TikTok, which she says, quote, President Trump proudly displays his mugshot while in the White House. There you can see right there the iconic picture, which, yeah, I believe that is also the most viral view or viral post of all time on Twitter. I mean, when Trump posted it, it got hundreds of millions of views. Or as he would say, more views than anything on the platform, the best, the awesomeness, the most views. Which, I'm pretty sure he probably said that at least once. Now, in terms of views on this one, it's got about 475,000 views and 15,000 likes. One of the first comments coming from The Big Picture, simply saying, love it, getting 49 likes. Gunther Eagleman says, love it, getting 157 likes. Planet of Memes, a little disappointed they did not in fact respond in meme form, in which he says, quote, a reminder of what the despicable left did to him, getting 60 likes. And a scary reminder of the weaponization of government and how they can destroy your life or try to. Porch says, greatest president of all time. Serious look. That got 56 likes. John's Meme says a picture of the White House. And his meme says, quote, Trump sentenced to 4 more years in the White House, getting 62 likes. 50 Trump says he's ready to bring the pain to all the liberals. And he did a Photoshop of that mugshot, but he has a do-rag as well as a golden chain with diamonds, getting 68 likes. Paul Zupa simply says that's why he's the boss, getting 23 likes. Libercat Media TM says, love that, now on display for all to see what he's endured to get where he's at. Trump is our retribution, getting 9 likes. Probably one of the coolest AI generated pictures comes from I Love American News. He has an AI generated picture of Donald Trump and Elon Musk as revolutionary soldiers, says, welcome to the revolution. And that got 44 likes. Pretty darn impressive. Yeah, I was going to say that and the assassination attempt from by the deep state against Donald Trump are probably the 2 most infamous pictures in American history. I would say even the top 10 of all time. So I'm actually surprised he doesn't blow that picture up even more, just put it right behind his desk in the Oval Office. But yeah, one of the most iconic pictures out there, and a friendly reminder of what can happen when the government is weaponized against you. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Igloo being recalled because you may just lose your fingers when you're using it, which isn't great. You say a lot of bad things about Yeti coolers being overpriced, just $300 for their coolers being too heavy, but at least I haven't heard of anyone losing a finger because of using a Yeti cooler. I'll give them that much. Now, this comes with thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, in which they say, quote, Igloo recalls more than 1 million 90-quart rolling coolers due to fingertip amputation and crashing hazards. Whoops. Which, part of it, of course, is human error, but also maybe the design. Here you can see the iconic Igloo logo plastered on their cooler, which, some of them have the little ruler on top in case you want to catch some fish. Looks like in order to see the recall date, they have the recall date is going to be associated with the manufacturer date, which is going to be at the bottom of the cooler for that code. Now, this is not good news for the consumers. They say, quote, the recall involves the Igloo 90-quart flip and tow rolling coolers manufactured prior to January 2024. Let me get a better picture on screen for you. The date manufacturer is imprinted on the bottom of the cooler in a circular pattern with the arrow pointing to the month of manufacture and the last 2 digits of the year of the manufacturer inside that circle. So that's why they got the little arrow. Oh, sorry about that. Little arrow right there. Rudimentary, but it works. That's how usually most plastics are dated. Now they say, quote, the recall coolers have a tow handle. Igloo is printed on the side of the coolers. Coolers are sold in multiple body and lid color combinations, some of which are pictured above. The following cooler models with tow handles are being included in the recall. Jeez Louise. They know that the model number is located on the labels affixed to the bottom of the cooler, which, that's a lot of them. Jeez Louise. Is there anything they didn't recall? Like GM News recall, too. Yeah, pretty much every... How many line items is this? Jeez Louise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6... Yeah, we'll just say every Igloo cooler is being recalled. Jeez. All of them. Now, they say that, what should you do? You should immediately stop using the recalled cooler and contact Igloo for a free replacement handle. Now, they say that the firm has received 12 reports of fingertip injuries, including fingertip amputations, bone fractures, and lacerations, which not good. Although, humorous silver lining of the situation, if any of those things were to happen, you usually need to get it on ice pretty quick. In which case, you can't get closer to that. The ice is literally inches away. So, silver lining of the situation, maybe, I suppose. Now, they note that these coolers are sold at Costco, Target, Academy, Dick's, and other stores nationwide, as well as online at Amazon.com and IglooCoolers.com. It's sold between January 2019 and January 2025 for between, geez Louise, that much? Apparently, these are sold between $80 and $140, which... Again, I have a soft spot for Igloo just because they do make their stuff in the United States, which is very, very rare these days. So when I do buy products, that's usually something I personally take into consideration. And their quality's been pretty good for, several years. I didn't realize the price points jumped up so much. Granted, I know it's not a $500 Yeti cooler. I can't believe people have budget for that, but nevertheless, these are a pretty penny. Again, now the models numbers do, basically include all the models. Now, realistically, you just call Yeti, or in this case, Igloo. Now, the recall number specifically is 25-136. Again, the recall number is 25-136. I usually say it's a silver lining, like no one's gotten hurt from recall. Well, in this case, not so much. Perhaps the silver lining is that, ice is right there. And thankfully, no one's passed away from this. No one's died. So, I always tell people, if you squint hard enough in life, you could usually find a silver lining in a situation. So, again, it's good. No one's passed away in this specific instance. But, again, I'm not sure who was in charge in designing that handle. And, again, the human error is, a thing. Part of it is on the consumer. You're playing around with things. You got to make sure you're paying extra attention. But, probably should have put a little bit more research development into this one than, quality assurance. I would also wonder how many people are inebriated when they're getting these injuries. Considering it's a cooler, I would guess most people pack it with copious amounts of alcohol these days. I don't know what else you bring in what else would you bring in a cooler? Yeah, that's about it, I think, these days. So, not a great look, and I gotta say, Igloo is certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better. Again, the first Q&A live stream is going to be February 22nd, 6 p.m. Texas time, or some people call it Central Time. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.